Hello, I'm Mio and welcome to this Draw With Me video where I will be drawing with POSCA markers. This is the second time I'm doing that. Here's the first drawing I did with POSCA markers. But this time I wanted to kind of zoom in a little bit and not draw portraits, but rather focus more on details. So therefore I decided on making some interesting eyes, and I wanted them to fit into these little forms over here, these little boxes. So the first eye is just gonna be one eye normal, and then the other eye is kind of being stretched open. So I start by drawing the normal eye first and a little bit of eyebrow, and then I draw in the other eye that is gonna be a lot more wide than the other. Since I've got a limited color palette, I wanted all of the eyes that I'm gonna be drawing today to have kind of neutral tones, so there are not gonna be any crazy colors in here. So that is also why I want the eyes to be a lot more interesting in the forms. So like this one where their eyes are being stretched by some fingers, and then I will be doing some other creative things with the other eyes as well. For the next set of eyes, I kind of play on a similar concept where I want one of the eyes to be more open and then the other one a little bit more closed, but I am playing a little bit with the angle. And the eyes are not going to be stretched out by anything this time. Here the expression is happening normally or whatever. So one smaller one bigger one, and then there's not going to be any color in the eyes. I just add some veins in them, otherwise they're just supposed to be the whites of the eyes. And then I try to add the other details according to, or similar to the reference photo of mine. Because all of these portraits are kind of compact into a tiny little square, the noses are a little bit odd maybe compared to how they're supposed to be and compared to how they are on the reference pictures. The reason for that being that I wanted some of the nose to be visible, but I did not want the rectangles to be too long, so that's why their noses are a little bit closer to the eyes than they normally would be. For the third and last eyes, the eyes are just supposed to be a little bit droopy, and then I want like the skin of the lower eyelid to be kind of sinking down. So in the reference picture there are fingers kind of dragging the skin down, but I didn't want to add any more fingers. I wanted this one to be a little bit different from the others, so it's just kind of happening without there being anything there to stretch it. Here I am going in with the first color, the first POSCA marker, and this is the lightest brown in the skin color pack that I have. So I add that in all the places where the lightest colors are supposed to be, and then I kind of drag it out a little bit with my finger because I feel like it lays on a very thick layer, and I have the world's thinnest paper that I have to work with in the sketchbook. So to try to save the paper, I kind of drag it with my finger, although I will say that it didn't really work all that well, and I feel like it turned out a lot less smooth, so that's why I kind of drop it over here and I decide to just go with it. The color is going to be a lot more opaque, which I like, although it is not all that great for my paper. But you know, you gotta make some sacrifices, so I add that color in most of the places, and here I think it is time for the next color, which is a hint darker, but then again it is not that much darker because the skin color set, in my opinion, does not have enough variation in the brown colors. They are all a little bit too similar to me. I would have liked a little bit more depth. So I add this slightly darker color pretty much everywhere that I had not colored in yet, except for of course inside of the eyes. And then I also switch over to a purple color just to add a little bit more of a tired look. So, and also just to add a little bit more color in there, a little bit more depth, because I don't feel like I have any color that would make a good blush color. So instead of adding blush, I will be adding purple to make it at least have a little bit more depth, you know? And then it is time for a slightly darker marker, and then I add the darkest marker, that is the darkest brown and looks almost black, and that is a really good shade color, although it is a little bit too dark compared to the other colors. But if you just smooth it out or blend it with the lighter markers, it turns out pretty cool. So that is what I did, adding that darker color and then adding in the lighter color next to it to make it fade a little bit more into the skin and be a tad more smooth. The thing that I really enjoyed with these drawings is that I chose a small portion of the face, which means that I get to add a lot more details that I would have been able to do when, for example, I made the first copying marker drawings that I did last time, where I made portraits, because then you have a lot smaller scale and you have to kind of think more of the general shapes of things and the general shading, while here I get to kind of play more around with details, which I really enjoy. So here I am kind of starting with some of the highlights, and for the darker skin tones I find that it is best to use a beige color and not a white, because if you use a white it can be a little bit too much contrast and you want it to look a little bit natural. Then I also add a little bit more shading around the nose to kind of make the nose bridge kind of blend more in, and black background, and then of course we have to add the pink sides or the pink little parts in the eyes, and I shade that with a red POSCA. And then it is time for the fingers. I chose the beige for the nails, and then I use the skin color, or the color that I used for the lightest part of the skin for the fingers to begin with, and then I do add some shadows on there as well with the darkest marker. In the original reference photo, the eyes, or the whites of the eyes, are yellow, and I really like that, so I want to add that, but I did not have a yellow POSCA, so I did bring out my alcohol based markers only for this part of the eyes, and then the rest will be with POSCA. Sorry, I lied. I also added this water-based marker for some of the details. But the rest is POSCA though, the rest is POSCA. So I wanted a dark brown color for the eyes, and then I added that, and I wanted them to be kind of minimalistic, not much detail. So I just wanted a little highlight in there, and that is pretty much it, and then a little line of brown just for a little bit of a shine. For the next one, I am adding this color that is not a part of the skin color set, but came with another POSCA pen set, and it is this kind of more peachy beige color. But yeah, I probably shouldn't have started with this one, and this is gonna get really ugly before it gets pretty, so you kind of just have to trust the process here, because the colors that I use don't look all that good in the beginning, but I do fix it. So this, for example, orangey color that I added at first, I don't really like, and it doesn't really fit for a skin tone, to be honest. So I probably shouldn't have done that, but I really want to test it out and see if it would work. But you know, you live and you learn. Then I add the lighter color, which is, yeah, the brightest beige color I have. Add that in all of the highlight places. Then it is time for the shading, and I start with this slightly darker color. And here's where you can see that the orange color that I added in the beginning does not fit at all with this color. So that's kind of where I failed a little bit, I would say. But again, I do fix it, so just, you know, trust the process. At this stage it looks pretty rough, but I do blend it with the lightest color on top to make some of the areas look a little bit more smooth, and then I go in with this brown color, which is actually the lightest brown color that I used for the previous portrait, and I of course experimented with that color previously on the lighter portrait that I did in the last video I uploaded. So I know it works, and therefore I'm a little bit more confident in this portrait. I of course have to blend it out though with the next two lightest color, so the more reddish tone that I have for most of the face that looks a little bit weird. I added that one on top, and yeah, try to smooth things out a little bit, add the brown here and there, and then I just repeat the process with the lighter colors on top. And of course I have to have some highlight. For the lighter skin tones I use a pure white. I wanted the whites of the eyes to have a little bit of a color, so I decided to add the skin tones in there and then add a little bit of white on top, so it will be a little bit lighter than the skin tone but still have some more natural undertones in it. Then it is time for that peachy color or the blush color that I have, and then I go in with a little bit of a liner just to kind of polish some of the areas, and of course to add in the eyebrows. Then I add some veins in with this nice little reddish fine liner. And then I am pretty close to being finished with the portrait, but I did feel like the side of the face was taking too much space or just looked really empty. So I added a little bit of hair there, and then I also add this same brown color to the background. Then it is time for the last portrait, and I start with, this time not the lightest brown that I used for the first portrait, but I wanted it to be a tad darker, so I added the second lightest color that I have. So this is also the same exact process that I did with all the other eyes, where I start with the lightest color and then I add the darker ones when I'm further in. A really sad thing happened with this portrait where I forgot to film, or when I stopped filming and then I forgot to turn it on again, and this is how far I had come when I remembered to film again. So I've gotten pretty far, but what I pretty much just did is the same with the other portraits, where I added the darker colors and tried to blend them out with the lightest color that I have. And then I added, of course, the color inside of the eyes, and then here I am coloring in with coloring pencils the eyelids, the lower eyelids, to add more depth. And I use coloring pencils because I don't feel like any of the other colors that I have are gonna be good enough, because the tips of the POSCA pens are very thick. So to get the most details in there, I do use coloring pencils, but only for the eyes. And then I also add some little veins in there. And then the color of the eyes themselves, they're gonna be brown. And yeah, a little bit of black for more shading. Okay, I did not just use it for the eyes, apparently I used it here as well. I had forgotten that. And then a fine liner for the eyebrows. Here it's time for the final little details, which were highlights that I later fixed or took away because I thought they were ugly. And then here's my little signature, and that is it for this video. Here are the finished little eyes. I quite enjoyed making them. It was really fun to work more with POSCA, and I hope to make more POSCA drawings in the future. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it, and I will see you again next week. Goodbye.